Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. All right. Let me get this on. Oh, it's already on. Hey, Ed, good morning.
Morning, Guy.
We ran a little long, and so we are filing in and getting in here. But I'm going to go ahead and begin us. It is my deep pleasure to introduce Ed Aponte to you all. What is fun is we have never met in person, but we have a long connection with one another. He is an ordained Presbyterian minister and is dean of the Theological School and professor of religion and culture at Drew University. How many of you know where Drew University is? We've got a couple of folks here you'll want to know that who actually grew up in and lived in New Jersey. So there is, and survived, exactly right. He also used to be head of the Louisville Institute, which is a great grant generating organization. And in fact, for a while afterwards, one of our former staff people was doing that work as well. He's a faculty at Perkins School of Theology at SMU and served as academic dean at Lancaster Theological Seminary and the Christian Theological Seminary. Importantly, and I hope he says something about being co-moderator of the General Assembly Special Committee to write a new confession of the Presbyterian Church. Ed, one of the things you may not know that I was tasked to do is after the study catechism was written, it didn't get included in one of our creeds and confessions, but I got tapped to write a curriculum based on it. And so I'm a huge fan of the creeds and confessions. But all of that is important to know as background, but even more important to know that Ed is married to Laura, who I grew up with at First Presbyterian Church in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And so I've been knowing about Ed through his wife for all of these years. And she posted something earlier, and I just said, I'm going to call him and see if he'd be willing to teach for us. I've had great appreciation for his work in all of these different places, and I'm excited to hear what he's going to talk about today. Whose City on a Hill? Exploring a Biblical and Civil Idea. Ed, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for spending time with us this morning.
Thank you, Guy. Good morning, everyone there in Nashville. I'm delighted that I can join you in this way from here in northern New Jersey. It indeed is one of the miracles of the times we live in that we can do this. Since Guy mentioned it, let me just say a word about the work we're doing for the National Church, the General Assembly, the prior General Assembly, receiving a number of overtures, made the decision to set up a special committee to draft a new confession. And by that, no one is saying that what appears in our current book of confessions is somehow insufficient. But it also is that there seems to be a time in the church that there is a desire at least to explore what is it that we need to say as Christians today in our own time and context. And so there are 16 of us who were appointed by the prior co-moderators. So we're a special committee of the General Assembly. We have been working for nearly 3 years. Most of us did not know each other, so part of the work was getting to know each other from different segments of the Presbyterian Church USA, and learning not only how to work together, but what is it that we are confronted with and what we need to speak to from our faith today. So our work is coming to an end. We're in November this coming February. We are anticipating of seeing how we prepare for the next General Assembly in June, to submit a report by the end of February. And God willing, in that report will be a draft confession for consideration by the next General Assembly, as well as our report that will talk about how we got there. I would be remiss not to mention that my co-moderator in this is the Reverend Dr. Margaret Amer, who is the Vice President and Academic Dean at Austin Presbyterian Seminary in Austin, Texas. And that gives you a sense of the breadth of the committee. The whole committee is listed online. You can look us up and see there. Also, all our meetings have been public, so there are recordings of them somewhere. I don't know where. Someone other than I is tracking all of that. But if, as we continue to talk this morning, if there's something about the work of the special committee to write a new confession has piqued your curiosity, and what I'm about to share with you also connects with that, we can talk about that. In just a moment, I'm going to share my screen because I have some slides, some illustrations, a little bit of a sound recording I want to share with you to help guide our conversation. Even though we are doing this in a digital way across the miles, I want this as much as possible to be a confession, or rather a conversation, so that if at any point you have questions, I'm going to rely on someone there on that side to let me know if someone is asking a question, because I can't see all of you. So just give me a moment to do the Zoom thing to share screen and get us started. Share sound, share that. How's that looking on your side? Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
Right. So, who's sitting on a hill exploring a biblical and civic idea? I want to start by sharing with you a few minutes of a quote from a speech that then President-elect John F. Kennedy gave in January 1961. This is a speech he gave at the State House in Boston, Massachusetts. Some of you may have traveled there and see that State House up on a hill in Boston. Technically still senator, soon to be president-elect. And it was his desire, and he received the invitation to address the state assembly, the two houses at the State House in Boston. It's worthwhile to.
Real quick, could you start your slideshow? Just get a little bit bigger. Just the goes to slideshow.
Well, from my side, the slideshow has started. So tell me,
Gotcha.
There's nothing. It's a picture of Kennedy at a podium.
Right. So if you go to the very bottom, because you're sharing the screen, it has the start slideshow button towards the bottom right, near the zoom on the bottom right of the screen. So if you go to the other side.
Let me stop sharing.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Is it showing up now?
It's still shown as the working window, but can you all see it okay for right now?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, all right, keep on going. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it on my side it's showing in slideshow mode.
Okay.
So
This should be good.
all right. Well, here's the test here. Let me see if we can hear the president-elect from 1961.
During the last 60 days, I have been at the task of constructing an administration. It has been a long and deliberate process. Some have counseled greater speed. Others have counseled more expedient tests. But I have been guided by the standard John Winthrop set before his shipmates on the flagship Arabella 331 years ago, as they too faced the task of building a new government on a perilous frontier. We must always consider, he said, that we shall be as a city upon a hill. The eyes of all people are upon us. Today, the eyes of all people are truly upon us. And our governments, in every branch, at every level, national, state, and local, must be as a city upon a hill, constructed and inhabited by men aware of their great trust and their great responsibilities. For we are setting out upon a voyage in 1961, no less hazardous than that undertaken by the Arabella in 1630. We are committing ourselves to tasks of statecraft no less awesome than that of governing the Massachusetts Bay Colony, beset as it was by terror without and disorder within. History will not judge our endeavors, and a government cannot be selected merely on the basis of color or creed or party affiliation. Neither will competence and loyalty and stature, while essential to the utmost, suffice in times such as these.
So I realize for some of you that may have been just the first time you heard that, and it was audio. I've not found any video from that, which is a shame. But so what Kennedy said, here again are his words so that it's before us. Drawing on John Winthrop, set before his shipmates on the flagship Arabella 331 years ago, as they too faced the task of building a new government on a perilous frontier. We must always consider, he said, that we shall be as a city upon a hill, the eyes of all people upon us. Today, the eyes of all people are truly upon us. This idea of a city on a hill is a favorite of politicians in the United States. Let's jump some years to Ronald Reagan. We just heard a clip of a speech from John F. Kennedy before he started his presidency. What we're going to hear is a little bit from President Reagan's farewell address. It has become a commonplace thing as presidents end their term to address the nation and address the world with their final official thoughts in office. So this is a little bit from President Ronald Reagan, his farewell address in January 11th, 1989.
Last few days, when I've been at that window upstairs, I've thought a bit of the shining city upon a hill. The phrase comes from John Winthrop, who wrote it to describe the America he imagined. What he imagined was important because he was an early pilgrim, an early freedom man. He journeyed here on what today we'd call a little wooden boat. And like the other pilgrims, he was looking for a home that would be free. I've spoken of the shining city all my political life, but I don't know if I ever quite communicated what I saw when I said it. But in my mind, it was a tall, proud city built on rocks stronger than oceans, windswept, God-blessed, and teeming with people of all kinds living in harmony and peace. A city with free ports that hummed with commerce and creativity. And if there had to be city walls, the walls had doors, and the doors were open to anyone with the will and the heart to get here. That's how I saw it and see it still. And how stands the city on this winter night? More prosperous, more secure, and happier than it was 8 years ago. But more than that, after 200 years, 2 centuries, she still stands strong and true on the granite ridge, and her glow is held steady no matter what storm. And she's still a beacon, still a magnet for all who must have freedom, for all the pilgrims from all. Past few days when.
So again, as President Reagan himself mentioned, this was a favorite theme of his, the city on the hill. And in his final days as president, he was thinking about the shining city upon a hill. And he went on to say that the phrase comes from John Winthrop, an early pilgrim, an early freedom man. And Reagan then went on to talk about his vision of the city, that the city on the hill, the shining city upon a hill, as President Reagan said, was tall, proud, city built on rocks, windswept, stronger than oceans, God blessed, teeming with people of all kinds, living in harmony and peace. A city with free ports that hum with commerce and creativity. And if there had to be a city walls, the walls had doors, and the doors were open to anyone with the will and heart to get here. So President Reagan, some of his final official thoughts in office regarding what he called the shining city upon a hill. A few years later, someone who did become president, but was not yet president in this quote I'm going to share with you, Senator Barack Obama, at the time the junior senator from the state of Illinois, was invited to give a commencement address at the University of Massachusetts, Boston in 2006. So let me just play a sound clip from that.
And weary of their lot in life. And as they saw merchants start to sail across oceans and explorers set off in search of new worlds, they followed. And it was right here, right in these waters, where the American experiment began. As the earliest settlers arrived on the shores of Boston and Salem and Plymouth, they dreamed of building a city on a hill. And the world watched, waiting to see if this improbable idea called America would succeed. For over 200 years, it has. Not because our dream has progressed perfectly, it hasn't. It's been scarred by our treatment of native peoples, betrayed by slavery and Jim Crow, clouded by the subjugation of women, shaken by war and depression. Yet the true test of our union is not whether it's perfect, it's whether we work to perfect it, whether we recognize.
So against then Senator Obama, as the early settlers arrived on the shores of Boston and Salem and Plymouth, they dreamed of building a city upon a hill, and the world watched, waiting to see if this improbable ideal called America would succeed. Now, I just inundated you with several quotes from folks who have been presidents in the 20th century into the 21st century. What did you hear? And I'm going to stop sharing screen just for a minute. So we heard three presidents talk about city on a hill. What did you hear?
I guess what caught my ear when you asked to recall that is that there were walls and the walls had doors and the doors were open to all.
Were you able to hear that, Ed?
Yeah, I did. So that there's a particularly President Reagan, that was one of the things that whenever he talked about, again, he called it the shining city on the hill, that there are doors that are open to all. What else did you hear from the three individuals?
I heard that JFK, I heard him say that we're like a city on a hill. And then I heard the next president, he said that we were like a shining, Ronald Reagan, I heard him say that we were like a shining city on a hill. Then President and President Barack Obama said that we are a shining city on a hill, but because this experiment of the United States of America still stands 200 years later, that it still stands, and it still stands beyond race, color, gender, religion, or whatever. But well, I mean, but USA, but beyond color or race, and stuff like that. But we're a shining city on the hill, and I think he also said we're a shining city on the hill. But they just are putting on that. USA has been here 200 years and more, and so, but, as being leaders, they're just, saying that amen, that great amen. They're saying that great amen in the name of Jesus.
Thanks, Jerry.
It's good.
And one of the
That's
things
great.
I heard was from President Obama, this notion of needing to perfect the vision.
Right. So that's good listening. And one of the things in your reflections is that there's a development of the idea, right? Each one does something with the concept. Anything else about what you heard? And I realize, in all probability, this may have been the first time you've heard, or you have not heard them in a long time, these clips, these sound clips, but anything else about what you heard?
It's on a hill, everybody can see it. And each one of those gentlemen stress the nobleness and the above self-centeredness to strive to be better. And that's what I see. We have, that city has such a position that we need to treasure and not besmirch it.
Right. Very good. So let me share a screen again, because
You said the nobility of the city, nobility of the whole USA. Nobility of the city. Right wrong.
right. So all of them in some way are talking about America, the United States of America, more specifically, as the shining city upon a hill. In some sense, there's a specialness about the United States, and they all mention in some way John Winthrop, and a couple of them specifically the ship Arabella. Can you see that? Can you see that illustration? So this is a postcard from the 1930s. A replica of the Arabella was constructed in the early part of the 20th century to commemorate the 1630s trip of the not only the Arabella, but it was a small fleet of English Puritans who went to North America. The Arabella, part of that fleet of migrants, they were Puritan colonists. Their governor was John Winthrop. They were Puritan immigrants to North America, to land that was claimed by England. They were sponsored by a commercial enterprise, the Massachusetts Bay Company, and they were the ones who founded what is still known as the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Before I go to the next slide, I don't have it here, but the historian in me can't resist this. In 1620, it was an earlier group of immigrants that we call the Pilgrims, who went to North America. They actually were trying to get to Virginia, and they got sidetracked and ended up in what they eventually call Plymouth. But all of that eventually becomes part of Massachusetts. Now, John Winthrop, the governor, he wrote something that helped establish their government together. He was what's called a Puritan, The Puritans were a group of Protestant Christians in the 17th century, and their desire was not to separate from the Church of England, but to purify it. Right? Hence their name, that they were thinking of, there's still some things in the Church of England that's good that we need to embrace, and so, but not to separate from it altogether, to fix it. And part of their desire to fix it was to leave Europe, to leave England, and go and try something new in North America. And as they tried to do that, they had an agreement, a compact that they wrote up. And this is part of it. A motto of Christian charity, and this language from the 1600s, it's a different sense of charity. It's the old understanding of charity as love. So a motto of Christian love is another way we can understand this. And so part of what's written there in that document that a number of them signed on board on the Arabella is talking about themselves and their calling as Christians. We shall find that the God of Israel is among us when 10 of us shall be able to resist 1,000 of our enemies, when he shall make us a praise and glory that men shall say of succeeding plantations. May the Lord make it like that of New England. All right, before I go to the next slide, what is this 1630 language trying to say? How would we put it in 21st century language?
Plymouth, Massachusetts. Plymouth was in Massachusetts. Plymouth was in Massachusetts.
It is.
Yes.
So they're saying that God has called them and that they are embarking on something new, so that whatever they do, and this phrase, succeeding plantations, it's a different sense understanding of the word plantation, so colony, that whatever is going to happen with this new Commonwealth of Massachusetts, it's going to be so great, they're hoping, that everyone coming after them say, God, make us like Massachusetts. That's, that at the very least, that's a type of optimism, right? Well, let's look at the rest of this quote from a motto of Christian charity. For we must consider that he's talking about this group of Puritan Protestant Christians. We must consider that we shall be as a city upon a hill. The eyes of all people are upon us, so that if we shall deal falsely with our God in this work we have undertaken, and so cause him, that is God, to withdraw God's present help from us, we shall be made a story and a byword through the world. Again, let's translate 1630 English into 2025 English. What is John Winthrop saying here?
But there was a Massachusetts Bay Company too. The Massachusetts Bay Company was right there near Plymouth, Massachusetts. Company, Massachusetts Bay Company. That right there where the Saints would need to succeed in the Saints things. But I wanted to point out that company, because that company is very important, very. That's the company for Massachusetts Bay Company. Massachusetts Bay Company is very important, it's really. Well, he's saying we need to.
Jesse, hold on a second.
Yeah.
I think, Ed, you wanted to reframe that for us, that, if the Massachusetts Bay doesn't succeed, people will look poorly upon us, right?
That's right. If we don't do a good job, then they're going to curse the whole world, and all of history will curse us. That the whole world is looking at what we're doing here in the founding of Massachusetts. That we Puritan Christians in this work that we're doing will be a city upon a hill. So, and this phrase, if we deal falsely with our God in this work, that is, Winthrop is talking about, they as a group of Protestant Christians are in some way in relationship with God, that's their understanding, and that they are trying to fulfill their calling as Christians in the establishment of this new colony. Now, where is this city upon a hill language coming from? Well, of course, it's coming from the Gospel of Matthew in chapter 5, from what we call the Sermon on the Mount by Jesus. And so the Gospel of Matthew relays to us the words of Jesus talking to all those who have assembled, including his disciples, his followers. You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but it is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. So what are we being told from the Gospel of Matthew here? What is this saying?
That we shine forth like the city on the hill, like Jesus is saying in Matthew 5 there, we shine forward. That light will shine to the whole world. But we're also shining to England. England was the main people that were looking at it. England was looking at us in that whole thing that even John Winthrop was talking about. So the whole world, you're right, the whole world was looking at us. But at the same time, England was the one that was focusing in on us. They were England, because if we didn't succeed, England would frown on us. But right here, man, light is brilliant, light needs to shine. So, like it's true. It's true. Even today.
Yeah, and that's helpful as you connected this gospel passage to the way John Winthrop and his colleagues on the Arabella were interpreting it. That England is watching them. Why are they watching? Why is anyone watching them?
Yeah, because they're the ones helping us and mainly responsible for us coming over here to North America.
Yeah.
But Jesus is
now,
right. That shines forth, and it does on the city, like especially, you know, even today. Right.
That's great. So even today, so what does this passage from Matthew say to us today? Let's jump from the Arabella in 1630. What is this passage saying in 2025?
We let our light shine forth. It'll be so glorious and so bright. People will see our good works and give glory to the Father. Give glory to the Father in heaven, in the heaven above. Red light of light shine. They'll see those good works.
Yeah. So who is Jesus talking to?
Talking to the church. Talking to his disciples.
Jesus is talking to his disciples. He's talking to the church. And as we receive this gospel, this is a word to us who are part of the church today.
You give glory to the Father in the heavens. Give glory to the Father in heaven.
Yeah.
And not to hide our light.
Not to hide our light as disciples, as followers of Jesus. Now, if we let that sink in, that can feel a little bit overwhelming. It's not someone else. It's each and every one of us. We are supposed to be the light of the world. That's where this language is coming from the teaching of Jesus, talking to his followers, saying that you as my followers, you are the light of the world. So whatever that light actually means, whatever it means for us to be light in the world today, in our today, we are to not hide it, but let it be public so others can see it and to see the work of God through us. Now, let me put this before you. This is an observation from a sociologist of religion, an article with a simple title, Civil Religion in America. Robert Bellah first published this in 1967. Some people have talked about the idea beforehand, and certainly since, right up to the present day, people are talking about this, that while some have argued that Christianity is the national faith, and others that church and synagogue celebrate only the generalized religion of, quote, the American way of life, few have realized that there actually exists alongside of, and rather clearly differentiated from the churches, an elaborate and well institutionalized civil religion in America. I realize that for some of you, this may be the first time you've ever heard of Robert Bellah, first time you've seen this quote. So let me just leave this on the screen for a moment. What's your reaction to this, what he's trying to say here?
And I think I'll take a swing at this. I've known Bella for a long time, and he's not alone. I think of some of the work John Beecham's done in civil religion, as well as others. There's that great book on, how Moses has been seen, and the whole Moses sense of Exodus being part of the American narrative, although from different perspectives, right? The pilgrims about the deliverance, but then Sojourner Truth is talking about go down Moses. So from different perspectives, the biblical narrative has been picked up by folks not in the church, but in the wider community to talk about civilized, the institutionalized civil religion in America. Yeah.
Right.
That's
right.
very helpful.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you mentioning the work of John Meacham. His stuff is great. I read everything that he writes. I don't know if, is he a member of your congregation there?
No, unfortunately, John's a good Episcopalian. So
okay.
Up the street at St. George's, but I talked to him on Wednesday, and he's willing to come and do a Sunday school for me on sort of the civil religion in 250 years as we come up to America, birthday next year. So he's a very active layperson, though, and a very, I think, gifted historian when it comes to civil religion in America.
Yeah. That's great. And well, of course, we don't hold it up against him that he goes to the Episcopal Church up the street. That's fine. That's fine. And when you engage him, both individually and when he visits you, I hope you ask him about his views regarding civil religion. So in what I've shared with you so far, what are your hunches? Why am I introducing this concept of civil religion? We just had a passage from the Gospel of Matthew. How's this striking you?
Ask you a question, Doctor. What is
Sure.
what are we saying civil religion is? What's Bella saying? I'm not sure I understand what he's saying is religion. Is it a political?
So I just gave you 3 quotes from 3 different presidents. 20th century and one from the 21st century. Those 3 presidents are drawing on this language from Matthew 5, but each of them are taking it in a different direction. None of them are talking about the city on a hill as being the church. Matthew chapter 5 is talking about the city on the hill being the followers of Jesus who are doing good in the world that will bring recognition and point people to God, point people to the Father. Each of the presidents are talking about the United States being the city on the hill. You get what I'm saying here? You don't have to agree with me, but you get what I'm saying. And so, yeah. And so what I am suggesting is that in the use by President Kennedy, by President Reagan, by President Obama, of the concept of city of the hill, which is a biblical concept, they have pulled it into a different understanding. And I think that is an example of what the sociologist Robert Bellah is talking about civil religion. So the city on the hill for these presidents that they're talking about, not the church, it's the United States.
They're saying that there's a set of values that the nation as a whole agrees to that sort of mimic a religion in a sense.
And obviously we don't have time today to explore this in detail, but there's something going on in the shared life of the nation that takes on a religious type of character and draws on, in this case, on biblical language, but transforms it into something else.
And also, I like those photographs. You had a photograph of JFK, you had a photograph of, in one of these slides of President Ronald Reagan, President John F. Kennedy, President Ronald Reagan, and President Barack Obama. You had a slide, had a photo, but I like the picture, I saw it. When you put it up there. But they love quoting the Bible. They're all 3 of them. They quote the Bible. That's where they get their language from sometimes.
Right. So they quote the Bible, but how they quote the Bible, is that what the Bible's talking about?
City
So
on
the Matthew 5, the city on the hill, are the good works of those who are the followers of Jesus.
Yeah.
Barack Obama talks about the experiment that is America.
Yeah.
President Reagan talks about the shining city on the hill. He even elaborates on the description of it. President Kennedy, in the midst of the Cold War, is drawing on City of the Hill to help make that contrast between what the language of the time, the free world and the communist world, right? That they are drawing on biblical language, but they're doing something different with it. So that part of the challenge then is, and this is why I gave this talk this title, about whose city on the hill. Again, back to the language of Matthew 5, you are the light of the world. Jesus talking to his followers, his disciples. Is there a difference between Jesus talking to his followers, to his disciples, that you are the light of the world, and saying that the nation is the light of the world, that the United States is the light of the world?
Absolutely, we are the light. That is absolutely true. Absolutely true. We are the light of the world.
In what sense? Yeah, so in what sense?
Just when we use grace and truth in our language, when we speak like Jesus does, when we preach like Jesus does, or speak like him, talk like him, and do what he says, and then even Jesus says, a new commandment I leave with you, that you love one another. Jesus said,
Right.
new commandment, that you love one. That was Jesus commanded that. He said that. And he said, love one another.
That's right. And when Jesus said that in the Gospel of John, he's talking to his disciples in the last summer. And he says, I call you now my friends. Right? So we are called to love one another in very concrete ways as the followers of Jesus.
I think about that the passage of Jesus' temptation, and when he's standing on like the edge of the building and he's looking out to over all of the nation civilization that he was seeing, and in his temptation he was asked if he would like to have this like political power, and he said no, he didn't. That wasn't what he was there for. And then a lot of people expected the Messiah to be a political figure, and he wasn't as much a king in the. He kind of like subverted that image, and had
Right.
love and kindness and justice, and mercy and grace to people who were suffering.
Right.
So there's, I think, in a sense, a danger in, I don't know, getting conquest actions into scripture, but that wasn't Jesus's like disposition.
Right. So the New Testament tells us that Jesus is the king, but he's a different kind of king, right? He's the king who will wash his disciples' feet. Right. Now, he's not like Herod. He's not like Caesar. He's willing to humble himself and do that kind of thing. I think I cut someone off. Go ahead, please.
So Jesus is clearly telling us to be an example of our God, which is God. The political speechwriters are correct, but they were saying America as an experiment is going to be an example to the world of our values, which the democracy and that kind of stuff. So it feels like an appropriate metaphor, although it's not. It's clearly a secular message from politicians. Did I get that right?
Yeah, it's using the same language, but it's not the same thing.
American leaders have always tried to project America as an example, a unique example, an exceptionalist example to the world. So in that sense, it fits the metaphor. Although it doesn't connect to God the Father. Right?
Right. So that in the United States, being a type of shiny sitting on a hill, as President Reagan said it, doesn't have necessarily anything to do with the good work that Jesus is talking about. Maybe, maybe not. But here in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus is talking about his followers. And so I realize that boy, the time has gone quickly. Hence the question that I posed for us initially, whose city on the hill is that? What does it mean for the United States of America to be a shining city upon a hill? What does it mean for the people who follow Jesus to be the light of the world as a city on a hill? And there's a difference in that.
Yeah, Ed, I think it's interesting too that the folks here don't realize that you were raised in the cradle of the Puritans, or at least went to your schooling up there outside of Boston at Gordon and Gordon Commonwealth. Am I remember that correctly?
That's right. That's right. And in part of the story, and President Reagan got it mixed up a little bit, which is very common. The Puritans and the Pilgrims, they were not the same group.
Right.
But in the telling of the story, particularly President Reagan and others, they get meshed together.
Yeah. And how you move from Winthrop, who was very much seeking as followers of Jesus to come and establish this, to those who take that language afterwards to sort of baptize his vision into our wider vision, right?
Right. So another way to summarize what John Winthrop is trying to do is saying, look, folks, we are Christians. We are the church. We're doing something new. How can we be the best church that we can in this new colony called Massachusetts? How can we be church? And what John Winthrop was talking about being church, that language gets taken and used to how can the United States be an exceptional example to the rest of the world, which is not the same thing.
And Jesse, I'm going to stop you because we're going to have to stop, or at least I am. I have to go get a robe on and get back to worship. So, and thank you so much for being with us. I hope at some point your travels will bring you down here to Nashville, and we can have you come. Do give your bride my best. And I don't know when I'll be in New Jersey next to come close to Drew, but blessings on your work. Oh, and the one question I wanted to ask is the new creed and confession that you all are working on, is it more like the brief statement of faith that can be used liturgically, or is it more like the second Helvetic confession that those of us who have been ordained have to slog through to mine those beautiful Reformed understandings? So or is it a catechism, or what is it?
We are trying really hard to craft something that can be used in worship.
Right. We used a piece out of the brief statement of faith in worship this morning, although Donovan, our head of staff, and I are both really formed out of C67 and still like to use that every now and again. So, blessings on your work. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. Blessings on all of you. Thank you very much.